to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guests 6 of our student scholars that recently received their scholarship awards at the UIAAA conference. Reagan Browning from Manila, Emerson Gilman from Bountiful, Ainsley Castbox from Grand County, Eric Robinson from South Sevier, Shay Stevenson from Ogden, and Boston Valdez from Tooele. Our first guest this evening is Reagan Browning from Manila High School. Reagan has a 3.98 GPA. She's the FBLA president. She has earned 11 letters in high school. Currently the senior class president and won a state championship in golf with the rest of his teammates. Reagan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience where you grew up, where you went to elementary school, where you went to middle school before you got to Manila.
Perfect. So I was born in Riverton, Utah, and then I moved to Manila, Utah when I was 6. And that is where I started at Manila Elementary School. And I also attended Manila Junior High, which is connected to our high school.
Okay, perfect. Did you have some experiences? I realize that Manila is not the most populated area. Do you have some stories you can tell us from your younger days of playing youth sports with your friends?
Yeah, so since our school is so small, I was actually able to start junior high sports in 5th grade because we didn't have any 8th graders or 7th graders. So we were a super young team. We played other schools in Wyoming, actually. And I had to play up against 8th graders, and that was super hard just because of the size difference and stuff. But it was super nice because I learned to get better super fast because I had to compete against people that were older and better than me. And that was a weird experience, but it was super fun and it taught me a lot.
Excellent. What does it mean to you to be a good teammate?
To be a good teammate means to make sacrifices for my team, so put the team before myself. In volleyball, I actually had to become a libero as a senior, which was super hard. I had to change like my spot, and that was difficult, but it was super rewarding because my team did a lot better than we usually had. And also this year in basketball, I got injured and I had to decide if I wanted to stay on the team or not. And although it was super hard and it was an ideal situation to not be on the court with my team, I decided to still be on the team and be a manager and have a positive influence even if I wasn't on the court.
That is a great answer. Thanks so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan, tell us who's the best coach you've ever played under and tell us why.
Probably Jay Schofield. I had him as my golf coach and my basketball coach. We had a different basketball coach almost every year I played, and that was super hard. But he was one of our coaches for one of the years, and he just made sure that we felt valued and that we had a purpose on our team. And he was really good at making us feel confident in what we were doing. Like golf is a super mental sport, so he was really good at making sure that like we wouldn't get in our heads and stuff. And he was just one of our biggest supporters, and he just made sure that we found a lot of joy in sports and that we made experiences and memories that we could take into our future.
Allow me to ask a follow-up. So you're obviously from Manila. What's your home course when you're playing girls golf?
We actually don't have a home course. We practice on our baseball field. We don't have a baseball team, so we just practice on there. And then if we want to practice on greens or anything, our closest course is Green River, Wyoming, which is 45 minutes away. So if we ever want to do that, like practice on greens or anything, we just have to go there like on our own time or on the weekends when we don't have meets.
Wow, that is fascinating. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
We'll finish with a couple of questions. The first one being, I need two suggestions from you, Reagan, for a brand new freshman entering high school, and they need to follow your suggestions in order to be a successful student athlete. What would those two suggestions be?
My first one would be having dedication to your team. That's super important. And your coaches and your teammates will notice that. And being reliable, it makes you not only a better teammate, but it makes you like a better person. And you can build trust through that and have better relationships. And my second piece of advice would be just to enjoy sports because it's such a short time of your life in high school sports to compete, and you never know when it can be ripped away from you. Like, I didn't have my last year of basketball, and that was super hard. But I would just say enjoy it because you can make the best memories in high school sports.
Thank you. We'll finish with this question, Reagan. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
Just having a stable job in what I'm studying, which right now is sonography. So I want to become an ultrasound tech. And hopefully I'm married and maybe even coaching sports. I think that would be super fun. I don't know what sport I would want to coach, but probably basketball right now, just because I sat on the sidelines this year and it was just super fun to like help my coach and just tell her like see things that I'm seeing on the sidelines. And I just realized that it's something that I'm actually super passionate about. So I think doing something like that in my future would be super fun.
Thank you. Once again, our first guest on the show tonight has been Reagan Browning from Manila High School. Reagan, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Our next guest on the podcast is Emerson Geilman from Bountiful High School. Emerson has a 4.0 GPA, 34 on the ACT, five letters earned in high school, football and basketball team captain, and a member of the National Honor Society. Emerson, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's have you share with our audience where you grew up, where you went to elementary school, where you went to junior high.
Yeah, so I was born in Idaho, but then I grew up here in Utah. I went to elementary school in South Jordan at a school called Welby Elementary, and then when I was in fifth grade, I moved to Bountiful, where I live now. And so I went to Oak Hills Elementary School, and then Mill Creek Junior High, and then attended Bountiful High School.
Perfect. Why don't you share some of the positive sports experiences you had as a youth, both in South Jordan and in Bountiful growing up? Little League, those types of things.
Yeah, so I've always had a big love for sports, and I think it started all just playing with my in the backyard with my older brother. I'd spend hours every day shooting hoops in the driveway or throwing in the backyard with him, and um, played I played basketball and soccer when I was younger in elementary school. I wasn't allowed to play tackle football till I was in sixth grade. Um, but yeah, immediately fell in love with football once I started playing, and even before that. But yeah, I just love sports, love playing all kinds of sports. Nothing really specific. I played everything, so it's definitely started at a young age.
Excellent. What does it mean to you to be a good teammate?
Yeah, I think being a good teammate comes with there's a lot of different aspects of that, and I think on one end, being someone who is good, actually like good friends with everyone, and clearly has you want to have all your teammates' backs at all times, and but then on the other end, being someone who holds your teammates accountable and expects the best from each other, and it comes out of a place of love, and I think that unity among teammates is critical for any team to be successful. So everyone can build each other up in the way that they need to.
Thank you. Emerson, who's the best coach you've ever played under, and tell us why?
Yeah, I've played for a lot of great coaches. I mean, there's been so many great people that have had such a big impact on me. But I would have to say, I will never forget the last few years I've had playing for our head coach, for football. I've had a really good relationship with Jason Freckleton. Spent so many hours just meeting with him, going over game plans and scripting practices. And I think that I mean, he's always believed in me, and I think it speaks a lot from a coach to be able to spend. So he's just always been so invested in me, and not just from a football standpoint, but for who I am as a young man, and just forever grateful for the memories I've been able to make playing for him and learning from him from in the game of football, but also in life. So yeah, forever
That's
grateful
some
for Coach Freck.
that is some great insight. Let me ask you this, Emerson. If you had two pieces of advice for an incoming freshman student athlete and they had to follow Emerson's pieces of advice in order to become a success, what would those two pieces of advice be?
Yeah, so I would first tell him to just work as hard as you can. I think success doesn't happen by accident, and so if you have goals in mind, it's going to take a lot of effort to get there and create a detailed plan, and recognize that sacrifices are going to need to be made if you want to attain those goals. And I think the second part of that, second piece of advice I would give him would be to fall in love with the process, and because I mean, high school goes by so fast, and it's something that you're going to remember the rest of your life, and if you're only measuring success off of your end goals, then it's going to go by really quick. But if you can find enjoyment in every day and working hard and making memories with your teammates or enjoying the memories at school and the classroom, I think that's the most one of the most important things to remember.
That's well said. We'll finish with this question, Emerson. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
Yeah, so I uh I see myself starting a family, finding a good career. I'm not quite sure exactly what I'll be going into. Something with business is what I'm planning on, but I wouldn't be surprised if it changed or in the future. I'm gonna work as hard as I can and pursue the dream of football as long as I can at BYU. But when the time comes to hang up my cleats, I'm just excited to start a family, try to have a good job to provide for them and help raise kids that and give them some of the experiences I've been so blessed with, and give back to my community and hopefully help change the world.
Thank you for sharing your dreams with us. Again, our guest on this portion of the podcast has been Emerson Geilman from Bountiful High School. Emerson, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our next student scholar this evening is Ainsley Casbrick from Grand County High School in Moab. Ainsley has a 4.0 GPA, National Honor Society member. She has earned 18 letters in 5 sports, which is incredible. I don't know that I've ever had a student with that many awards, and science Sterling Scholar, and then a captain of 4 teams, girls basketball, track, soccer, and cross country. Ainsley, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience where you grew up, where you went to elementary and junior high school.
All right, so I was born here I was born in Colorado, but I grew up here in Moab until I
Mm-hmm.
was like 7 years old, and then my family decided to make a change and we moved to Hawaii for 7 years. So I lived there until I was 14, and then we came back here to Moab. So when I lived in Moab, I went to Moab Charter School, small elementary school here in town, and then when I lived in Hawaii, we went a little bit of a different route. I went to a private and all-girls private school, so it's called Sacred Hearts Academy, and then switched back to public in Hawaii and went to Kaimuki Middle School. And now I'm back here at Grand County High School.
So tell me which island did you live on?
We lived on Oahu, right in the middle of Honolulu, so big city living.
Okay, all right. Well, a little bit different than Moab then.
Very different, yeah.
Share with our audience, did you have a chance to participate in some youth sports while you were there in Hawaii?
Yeah, that was actually one of the best parts of living in Hawaii, and my parents did a great job of letting me try whatever I wanted to. So I mean, I played soccer, t-ball, I played lacrosse, I played hockey, basketball, swim. I tried everything and anything.
Ainsley, what does it mean to you to be a teammate?
I think that being a teammate means just showing up every day and giving your best, and not just at game time, but every day at practice, because showing up and being the best version of yourself only helps your team. It doesn't hinder anybody. And just being supportive and encouraging every single day you're out there.
Who is the best coach you've ever had, and tell us why?
I've had so many coaches, and I'm not sure that I could pick one because they've all benefited me in their own way. I had a basketball trainer in Hawaii who I started working with when I was like 9 years old, and he taught me how to work hard from a young age, and that stuck with me. My high school cross country coaches are like family to me now. They're just the most amazing people I've ever met. I have a basketball coach here at Grand County who he's the most supportive guy and he encourages me in every single aspect of my life. And then I have a personal running coach who just his training and working with him and talking to him has taught me so many life lessons about how to be accountable, how to schedule my time properly, how to communicate, and most importantly, how to push myself when no one's there to watch.
Let me ask you a follow-up about cross country, because I've
Yeah.
obviously never lived in Moab, but visited
Yeah.
there, camped there many times.
Hmm.
So just the cross country, do they go up at the Slick Rock one day? Do they go up the Colorado River the next day? Do they go up the Potash Trail? I mean, how does that work with cross country there?
I mean, yeah, Moab's such a beautiful place and we have so many trails. Sometimes it gets rough because town is like 6 miles around it. So if you're running more than
Hmm.
6 miles, you definitely got to pick a trail. But we try to get out on some trails. We like to go up Mill Creek and we definitely go down the river. We do a lot of workouts on the river, which is so much fun. It's beautiful. I've never actually run on the Potash Road. It's a little too far out there, but it's definitely something I've got to try.
Fascinating. Let's finish with a couple of questions. The first one, Ainsley, is I need two suggestions from you. I need Ainsley's two suggestions for a brand new freshman athlete coming into high school. They need to follow your suggestions in order to be a success. What would those two suggestions be?
I think that as an athlete and as a person, like the most important thing you can do is be kind to people on or off whatever kind of field or court you play on. If you can walk off after your competition and be proud of the person you showed up as, I think that's worth more than any win, and that'll help keep yourself happy as an athlete. And then something that I've struggled with in high school and I think is so beneficial to anybody who wants to participate in sports is keeping your life organized and managing your time well. I mean, if you don't have to stress about all the other things on your plate because you have a plan or you've completed them, you'll feel so much happier, so much less stress. And in my personal experience, I perform better when I'm not having to think about all the other things I have to do.
Very good. We'll finish with this question. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
Yeah, I'm not sure how my sport will play into the rest of my life, but I definitely know that I'll keep running and staying active for as long as I possibly can. And career-wise, I'd love to see myself well established and in a career that I enjoy. I think that as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing, I'll be happy with my life.
Great answer. Thanks so much for sharing that. That wraps
Yeah.
it up for this guest of the podcast. Again, our special guest during this part has been Ainsley Casbrick from Grand County High School in Moab. Ainsley, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you again for having me.
Our next guest this evening is Eric Robinson from South Sevier High School. Eric has a 3.95 GPA. He's been a member of the National Honor Society for the past 3 years. He's earned 13 letters in 4 different sports. He's a 5-time team captain and a 6-time individual state champion. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's have you share with our audience because you probably grew up in Monroe, but we're not sure. So where'd you grow up, where you went to elementary, junior high before you got to South Sevier?
All right. So I actually started out in Mapleton. I was I went to Mapleton Elementary School, and then halfway through elementary school, I moved to Monroe Elementary. And then from then on, middle school and high school, I've been at South Severe.
So the middle school and the high school are in the same building, correct?
No, so we actually have a separate middle school and high school. The middle
Okay,
school is about 4 or 5 blocks away from the high school.
perfect. Let's have you share some of your positive sport experiences when you were living up in Mapleton and living in Monroe from when you
All
were
right.
younger.
Okay, so when I was living in Mapleton, a bunch of things that I loved was just kind of some character building that the young soccer groups, the rec league soccer groups that I could go and participate in when I was a child was just really good for me. It really brought out my love of sports and really got me involved. I really love those. And then coming over to South Severe, being able to carry that on and play soccer because soccer was a big part of my life as a youth. It was really good. And then moving into high school, some experiences that I've had would be um, at state track last year. We'll use as that as an example. I had taken fifth in high jump, which wasn't my best performance. I'd taken first in 110 hurdles, which I was really excited about, and I took first in the 400 meter. And next up was my 300-meter race. This was the one where I was picked to win first, right? This is where I was supposed to kind of dominate. I was the fastest put in time by quite a bit. And so I was supposed to do really good here. But after the 400, I was just feeling like really tired. And so I got into my blocks, kind of like stumbled. I couldn't really move my legs, couldn't seem to get going. And then when we took off, I kind of was behind, started catching up about halfway through the race. I was like, I really need to start running. So started catching up, and then at the finish line, the kid that was in first that just barely beat me, I caught up to him, and then he'd gotten his foot in front of me at the line. So he had won first, and I had won second. But when they called us up to get our medals, they called me in first place, and they didn't even call the kid that took first. So I was like, "What's happening? Like, what's up?" And they said that the kid had gotten DQ'd. So they gave me the medal and like ribbon and bullet casing and everything, and I just felt like I didn't deserve it, so I kind of ran out of the arena, not arena, the podium area, and my mom
Hmm.
was waiting for me, and she was like, "Good job," and I kind of like gave her like a weird side hug while I was already like sprinting. I ran as I was already running to the kids' tent. I knew exactly what school he was from. Like I've competed against him before. He's a really good kid, and so I ran straight to his tent and kind of like saw him under there. He seemed a little sad, because he had just won and then gotten disqualified. And I just walked up to him, said hi, gave him the medal, and was like, "This is yours, not mine. Like you outran me. You deserve this." And it's just kind of experiences like that that just kind of keep me going, or like positive experiences in my life that I really love. Yeah, and we just shared a special moment there, and that was one of the positive things I've got out of high school with sports and athletics, especially.
That is a great story. Thank you for sharing. Eric, what does it mean to you to be a good teammate?
To me, it means to like support, be part of a family, be a motivator at times, and kind of we'll just start with a motivator. Sometimes kids don't want to run or they don't want to do whatever, right? Like on the track team, I kind of have to motivate kids to run. On the basketball team, past few years, I've even ran with freshmen or sophomores or some of the underclassmen with their ladders that we had to run because if they were late, they'd have to run ladders. If they didn't make the ladder, they'd have to run it again. And sometimes they just didn't have the motivation to finish that. So I'd run ladders with them and kind of push them along, trying to get them through it. And I'd be right there with them. So kind of like a motivator, supporter, right? Kind of a leader again in that position, just being able to help the other kids. And that kind of leads me to part of a family, being a teammate's just being part of a family is like you all grow together and you all just need to be there for each other. So that's what I feel like it is to be a teammate.
Thanks for sharing that, Eric. Who's your best coach you've ever had, and tell us why?
The best coach I've ever had would probably have to be my JV head coach for basketball. He's just really tucked me under his wing, I'll say, for lack of better words. But I was kind of overlooked when I was younger because I moved in and they kind of already had like their basketball team set and they were like practicing since like second grade going up. And I just wasn't really in with them at the time when I moved in. And so I was just kind of overlooked a little bit. And when I got into high school basketball, he really helped me out. He would explain to me and like really help me understand the game of basketball better. He'd explain like calls, he'd explain whatever, what he'd want me to do better. He really helped me out and like helped train me a little bit. I'd text him and he'd go to the gym with me for some personal workouts and things. And he really just kind of gave me my shot and like let me play and be with them and kind of let me show everyone that I could play with them and that I deserved to be there. Um, Another thing was he wasn't afraid to take the blame or acknowledge when he was wrong. He was really good at being like that one, like he'd set up a defense if the defense kind of didn't work or if he was trying to switch things in the middle of a game, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's my bad." He goes, "I was trying to switch you guys up, you guys got confused. Like that point's on me." He's like, "Just go get another stop on defense." Like he wasn't afraid to admit when he was wrong and explain everything to us, why it was happening, why they might be doing a certain defense or something. So to me, he really just helped me get my wings for that sport and being a part of a team.
Some great insight. Thanks for sharing. Eric, if you had two pieces of advice for an incoming freshman scholar athlete in high school and they had to follow Eric's advice to be a success, what would your two pieces of advice be?
I would say push yourself. Don't be afraid to put in the work. Talent only gets you so far. I had great talent freshman year going into running, and then I thought it would carry over to my sophomore year. And I kind of just didn't try. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm talented. I kind of got in my head a little bit and it didn't work out. So I had to start putting in the work and being able to just
Sure.
push yourself and be able to work because talent will only get you so far. And then my second piece of advice would be united. Like your team is your family. Um, you need to build them up and see them grow with you. You don't want to just try to show them up. You're only gonna get as far as your team can. Um, so be willing to go far for them. You want like, they're your family. You want to be able to go to war for them, pretty much, and be able to fight for them if you need.
We'll finish with this question, Eric. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
Well, this one's a little bit more fun. I want to go into med school and become an anesthesiologist. So my goals after college would be um, to try to get into a med program, get all my med schooling done, and try to become an anesthesiologist. Besides being an anesthesiologist, I would love to become a father and support my family. I feel like that's a really good thing is to have that goal a little bit, but anesthesiologist is where I see myself after college.
Very good. Thanks for sharing those experiences with us, Eric. Once again, our guest for this portion of the show has been Eric Robinson from South Severe. Thanks again for being on the podcast, Eric.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been good. It's been fun.
Our next guest on the podcast is Shay Stevenson from Ogden High School, 4.0 GPA, National Honor Society member for 2 years, 12 letters, state champion in cross country, and the social studies Sterling Scholar for Ogden High. Welcome to the podcast, Shay.
Hi.
Let's have you begin by talking just briefly before you got to Ogden High. Where did you attend elementary school, junior high, etc.?
I went to elementary school at a charter school called Maria Montessori, and then I went to Mount Ogden Junior High for junior high school.
Which is just down the street from Ogden, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you share some of the positive sport experiences you had growing up as a young lady up in the Ogden area?
When I first was asked this, like when I first saw this question, the first thing that came to mind was when I think I was 12, and I played soccer, and my dad was my coach. And it was really rainy, and I got hit in the face with a soccer ball and had a really bad bloody nose. But the refs told me to sit out, but I did not want to sit out. I was very determined, and we were tied. And so I played with a bloody nose all over my white jersey and scored a goal with blood all over my white jersey.
Well, that's awesome. So were the other young ladies afraid of you with all that blood on you?
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Shay, what does it mean to you to be a teammate, a good teammate?
So I do sports that you don't really think of teammates, like cross country and track and swimming, but truly like having teammates is a big part of the team's overall success. And something I love about my teammates in swimming and track and cross country is that I get to celebrate their successes over my own. Some of my most proud moments has been on relays, school record breaking relays for swim, and being able to break those records with my teammates. And I have a best friend on swim who swims the 500. And at our senior state swim meet, I was able to count for her, and watching her PR was way more rewarding than my own podium. So I think just celebrating your teammates' successes and being able to, um, I guess, be more happy for the things they do over the things you do.
That is some great insight. Thank you so much for sharing. Shay, let me ask you, who was the best coach you ever had and why?
So when I was given this question, I could not pick one, so I'll give three and I'll make it really quick. The first one
That's
is Missy
great.
Allred. She coached me in cross country, and she is just someone who always loved me for me and always wanted to make sure how I was doing in all my sports and was always seeking what's best for me and wanted to get to know me. And then my second is Scott Yetter. He is my track coach, and he just knows me so well as an athlete. And before meets, swim meets, track meets, cross country meets, games, he's just always known how to calm me down and how to give me the best advice to help me succeed. And then finally, my club swim coach, Nathan Toll, he just pushes me to my limits and makes me hurt, and pushing me to those limits has helped me break barriers that I never thought were possible for me to break.
That's great. Scott, the assistant AD up at Ogden, is he not?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is, and a recent guest on the podcast. So shout out to Scott. Let's finish with a couple of questions. The first one being, I need two suggestions from you, Shay, for a brand new freshman
I
attending a
would
high school. And well, I need you to give your two pieces of advice for them to become a successful student athlete.
I would say grit and positivity. Grit because things get really hard and you just want to quit, but you can't quit and you have to keep going because in the end, the reward is so much greater than the hard practices. And positivity because things do get hard and people aren't always nice. And sometimes teammates aren't always nice to you, and you just have to stay positive and uplifting, and it'll help your experience be so much more rewarding.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that. We'll finish with this question. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
Um, this is a big question because I've only thought of college, but I would say married with kids. And I have a foundation in the things I believe and the things I was taught growing up. And a lot of those things come from sports. And then having a career with a foundation in biomedical engineering. I don't know where that will take me, but I hope that degree will help me to have a very successful career.
That is impressive. That wraps it up for this guest. Once again, Shay Stevenson from Ogden High School. Shay, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Our final guest on today's podcast is Boston Valdez from Tooele High School. Boston has a 4.0 GPA, National Honor Society member for 3 years, has earned 8 varsity letters, been captain of the golf team twice, an academic all-state in golf and in soccer. Welcome to the podcast, Boston.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And let me mention this. Boston is actually the son of Cody Valdez, who is also a previous UIAAA scholarship winner. So this is the first time we've had a son of or a daughter of one of our ADs. So that's kind of special. Boston, why don't you start by sharing where you grew up, where you went to elementary and junior high school?
So I was born in Logan, Utah. My family had moved there for a little bit when my dad was going to college. And then when I was 2 years old, we moved out here to Tooele, where we've lived ever since. I went to elementary school at Settlement Canyon Elementary. Junior high, I went to just Tooele Junior High, and then I've been going to Tooele High all 4 years. Not born, but raised through Tooele, bleed purple and white.
Right. Share some experiences of playing youth sports out in the Tooele area when you were younger.
So I began playing soccer when I was 6 years old. I've just the moment I stepped on that field, I've loved it. Knew that's what I wanted to do with my life, pretty much. I began playing competition soccer when I was 9, and I played with that same club team all the way through. I've been on that team as long as I can. This last season was our last season with that team, but I've played with many of the same players, same coaches. So that's where I grew up playing soccer with this. I've had that same core group of players. For golf, I kind of did it recreationally for a while when I was young. Then about the age 11 or 12, I began to take it a little bit more seriously. I joined like a little junior league here in Tooele, and I joined the golf team as a freshman, and I've loved playing golf.
Excellent. Boston, what does it mean to you to be a teammate?
To be a teammate, it's more than just a teammate, I guess. I feel it's like a brotherhood. These teammates are ones that you are going to spend, especially in high school, you spend virtually every day with practices, games, matches. You're with them all the time, and you create a brotherhood with them, one that you can carry with throughout the rest of your life. One that your teammates are ones that you can always turn to, ones that will always be there for you. And that, like I said, with my club team being like the core group of players that I've played with forever, those are some of the strongest relationships I have. Some of my best friends that I know that will always be there to support me, and I will always be there to support them as well.
Share with our audience who's the best coach you've ever played for and tell us why.
I mean, it's hard to say this, but my dad has been coaching me in everything that I've done. He coached me when I wrestled when I was young. He has been my soccer coach until, I mean, he obviously always coaches me off the sidelines with personal trainings, but he's been one of the coaches for my club team ever since I joined the competition team. Even as a recreational player, he was my coach. He has coached me in golf. He was the assistant golf coach until he became the athletic director at Tooele High. So my dad just been that mentor for me, always teaching me. He's been there to support me on and off the field at all times. And just more than just being a coach, but being my dad, being there for me at all times through the thick and thin.
Excellent. Let me add parenthetically, I should have mentioned this at the first. So not only is your dad the AD at Tooele, but your grandfather, Rich, former athletic director. So you're actually a 3-generation person on the podcast today.
Yes, I am.
Let me ask you this, Boston. So you have 2 suggestions for a brand new freshman entering high school, and they need to follow your suggestions in order to be a successful student athlete. What would those 2 suggestions be?
One would definitely be having to stay on top of schoolwork. I mean, as like my brother right now, he's a freshman, and he has quickly learned that you need to stay on top of your schoolwork. You're going to be missing many days, depending on the sport. Like the golf, we miss an entire day. So that means you're missing 5 classes, which you have to make up depending on the course load. Like I take many college level courses, which can be a difficult task to maintain and catch up on. But just depending on like every sport, pretty much regardless of what it is, you will be missing some class time. So that's very important that you stay on top of it and make sure you're getting those assignments completed that you may miss, connecting with classmates that can get you notes and all that type of stuff. And I would also suggest, as a freshman, make sure to make those connections and bonds with teammates. Like I said earlier, these are the bonds that will last you a lifetime, and it's important to be that person on the field that people can trust, that people want to be around. You want to have these friendships with those because you're going to be spending so much time with them. It's important to be a brother to your brother or sister, depending on the sport, I guess, to those that are all around you all the time.
Great suggestions. Thanks so much for sharing that. We'll finish with this question. Where do you see yourself after you've graduated from college?
After college, I mean, my dream has always been to play professional soccer, but as life has come closer to college, especially, I've kind of realized that is very difficult to make that happen. It's a big game of chance and opportunity, and I've come to the realization that my chances are very slim of making that happen. But my plan is to major in engineering. I haven't decided exactly which field, but I'm going to be attending Utah State, and I will be majoring in a field of engineering, which I plan to pursue a career in that after college.
Excellent. That wraps it up for our final guest today, Boston Valdez from Tooele High School. Boston,
Awesome.
thank you so much for being
having
on
me.
the podcast. Okay. And
Thank you
for
for
our
having me.
listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.